Hi everyone. I'm not quite ready to go properly live. I'm live at 1 o'clock, but if you've joined me early, Happy New Year, blwyddyn newydd dda, all the way from Wales. Still got a little bit of snow on the ground, but today we're going to paint a cactus. If you want to get your materials ready, you will need, let me just pop that over there. You will need a piece of watercolour paper, small piece, or a big piece of watercolour paper divided up into pieces. This is an example of one that I did a while back, which was of goldfish and their bowls. So you can see that I took an A3 sheet of paper and I divided it up into 12 sections. Sorry, it was an A3 sheet of paper, divided it up into 12 sections, and I painted a little goldfish bowl in each one. So you can either do that, you can do it on A4 paper, or you can do it individually. It's up to you. I'll explain all this again when we start officially at 1 o'clock. I'm just going to have a sip of coffee. So you'll need watercolour paper. Any quality will do. I mean, you can paint onto thick paper as well. If you want to use acrylic or pencil or pen, then you can use canvas for acrylic or just normal cartridge paper for coloured pencils or pens. Hello, Mick Sheridan. I've started a bit early just to make sure that I'm ready. So you can paint onto cartridge paper, but I'm going to paint using watercolour today, and I'm just going to use a limited palette so that if some of you have only got certain colours, then you'll be able to follow me. And the idea is that we do it in 10 minutes. So it's a quick 10-minute paint along and then off, and you can do or carry on, or you can make up your own cacti or whatever, that sort of thing. Okay, so I will show you how I've prepared my paper. So like I said, that was the mini goldfish bowl challenge that I did. Say hello if you're there and let me know that you're around. And then I've got this set up on an easel. So I've just divided it up into sections using some masking tape. So out of that, I will get 12 cacti. So in the end, I will use 3 sheets of A3. But if you've got a little notepad, then you can do 1 on each page or 2 on each page, or that sort of thing. I'm trying to think what else you might have. You might have sketchbooks. If you don't have masking tape, then just use a ruler to divide up into your sections. And like I said, there'll be a little cactus. And another question that's been asked is, what would we do with them when we're finished? Because effectively you could have 31 cacti. I mean, you can frame them like I've got with the goldfish. Let me just show you that again. So you can put that in an A3 frame as it is, or you can individually frame them, or like I do is I chop them up and I send them to people. You could put them on cards, you could make a calendar, it's up to you really. You just put them on your wall, stick them up with masking tape, whatever you want to do with them. I mean, they're very sweet, and it's a good way of making a record of your drawings and paintings. And then you could do bigger pieces afterwards if you wanted to. You could choose your favourite and then make a larger version of that. Okay. So to draw it out, you need an HB or a 2B pencil, something that's fairly soft, not too hard. And if you're prone to making mistakes on watercolour paper, use a putty rubber. But on normal cartridge paper, you can just use a normal rubber. What else will you need? Oh, brushes. So I've got several sets of detail brushes here. If some of you may or may not know that the guide for a brush is on there. So if I show you here, I don't know if you can see that. This is a 00. So that's a really small tiny detail brush. And then you can see that this is a number, we just about see this. This is an old one. This is a number 3. So as they go up in number, they become larger. But in the main, we're going to be using detailed brushes. So if you've got small brushes, that's brilliant, especially working on this size. If you haven't, then work slightly larger and use the bigger brushes. And if you haven't got any brushes even that size, then you can work bigger and use bigger brushes. So the bigger the brush, the bigger the paper. But the idea is that we're doing a mini masterpiece here. What some people do is, if they've got lots of brushes, is they will cut these down to make them small. So you might just pull half the hairs to one side, trim them down to make finer detailed brushes. Okay, but only if you've got loads. Don't go doing that if you've only got a few brushes, because you'll end up with no brushes. Okay, and the other thing to have to hand, because some of you might just be watching today, and then we'll prepare for tomorrow's. You can do as many of these or as few of these as you like. You can just watch them. It's up to you. You can just watch me paint. It's useful to have some loo roll or kitchen towel around, or even use an old cloth, just in case you make mistakes or if something drips. And then I've got 2 pots of water. One is to clean your brushes with, and then the other one is for mixing, because when you're mixing colours, it's much better just to have clean water, and then it doesn't affect the colour mixing that you're doing. Okay, so we're nearly there, nearly at 1 o'clock. Just another quick slurp. Remember, you can live chat with me as well if you want to ask me questions. While I'm painting, I won't be looking at the screen, so I won't see the questions coming up. But once I've finished, I can look at them and answer them, or even answer them later. And if you can't attend this live, then you can catch up later on YouTube. Okay, so if you can't make it at 1 o'clock, not everybody's going to be here at lunchtime on a New Year's Day. You can catch up later on. Okay, so they'll be on my YouTube channel. So, it'll get very full over the next month with 31 little cacti. Well, feel free to ask me questions. Right, 1 o'clock. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Blwy then newydd dda, all the way from Wales. It's a beautiful day here, and it's very snowy, so it's gorgeous. So I'm quite pleased that I'm inside and I've got the studio all nice and warm. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint a cacti today. And my initial idea, which has fallen on the floor, was generated from, I did a sheet like this a while back of goldfish bowls. So they're all little mini goldfish bowls, and I divided an A3 sheet up using masking tape. You'll see in a minute what I've done. And I just did a little painting in each one. And I thought I'd do something similar with cacti. So if you've got A3 paper, that's great. If you've got A4, you can just split that up in the same way. Just split it up into small boxes. If you haven't got either of those, then just use individual pieces of paper and just divide them up. It's up to you, all right? And you need watercolours, detail brushes, water, pencil, rubber, some tissue paper of some kind, or an old sock or whatever, just in case you make mistakes, and some water. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this now. Hi, everybody who's here. I'm going to turn this now, and you're going to be able to see my easel and where I'm going to paint. And then I'm just going to quickly use a HB pencil to just draw a very small cacti. So this will be the first one, the first of the new year. And then you can just copy me onto your paper, and then we'll paint it. But it's only going to take 10 minutes, so we have to work quickly. All right. So I'm just going to turn my my laptop now to face my easel, and hopefully you'll be able to see. I just have to rearrange myself a little. Ooh. Okay, so I'm going to paint into, let me just straighten this up a bit. Hopefully from next week I'll have a webcam, and that'll make me able to zoom in a little bit easier on this paper that I'm working on to. So like I said, I've got an HB pencil. Okay, and I'm just going to quickly draw a little cacti onto this paper here. So first of all, we're going to have a little pot. A little pot. Now, when you do this, if you want to afterwards, you can take a black permanent marker, a fine tipped marker, and you can go over these lines using the marker pen. However, you will be able to see the lines of the pencil, so they may show through. If you don't want them to show through, most watercolorists don't want their lines to show through their watercolor. What you do is you do your drawing. So there we have our cacti there. Okay, so we've just got a very simple pot, a little saucer, and our cacti. We are going to put little spikes on this cacti. I hope you can see that. Okay. If you want to, you can take a rubber and you can lightly rub out your marks that you've made. Just lightly rub out your marks. But because I want to be able to, for you to see this, I want to leave them where they are. Okay, so I'm going to do them darker so that you can see them. All right, so once you've got your drawing done, just a little pot, you can change the shape of your pot. You can put a design on it. It's up to you. We are going to put some lines on this cacti. And this is a very familiar cacti, a familiar shape. Most people will have seen a cacti like this. Even in the shops now they sell them. Sometimes you even find them in the supermarkets, which is quite amazing. They've become very fashionable. Now, I have got here, I'm going to try and show you, a little mini watercolor set. This is called a travel set. And in it, there are 2 greens, 2 yellows, 3 blues, a couple of reds, a brown and a white. Okay, so hopefully you'll have some colors like this. It doesn't have to be watercolor. You could use gouache, you can use acrylic, you can just use pencils if you haven't got any paint. But the first color I'm going to put on is this green at the bottom here, this one, which is a sap green. It's called sap green. Okay, and I need to water it down a little bit so that it'll paint onto my watercolor paper nicely. Now I'm going to try and do this without covering up my cacti and stop my hand from shaking, because I'm working vertically. My hand shakes a little because it's not the usual way of painting. So I wonder if some of you have got cacti at home already. I know some people have joined in who have bought cacti from me, and also who have grown their own cacti. So, you know, over the month, you might decide that you want to paint your own cacti, make up your own designs. I will have a different design every day for you to copy if you want to. But if you want to make up your designs, send a few to me so I can have a look at them. That would be really great. And send me, send me pictures of your final paintings. I'd love them. And it'll encourage me to keep going through the month if we have some connection, a cacti, special cacti connection. And also I might do some succulents as well, because I'm really into succulents as well. And if you check out my website, which is just juliannesheridan.co.uk, you'll see that I'm also really into lichens as well. A lot of my paintings are to do with lichen. So there we have the first coat of sap green. While that's drying, I'm going to put a pale pink colour on my pot. Now, You can buy pink watercolour, as you can buy pink acrylic, but you may not have that in your set. But to get a pink in watercolour, if you haven't got one, the easiest way to do it is just to take any red, water it down a lot, and just apply a thin coat of watercolour to that pot, and it will look pink. And that's just purely because the red watercolour is reacting with the white paper underneath, and because it's transparent, that's the beauty of watercolour, you get a pink. And often I've used alizarin crimson here, just in case you don't know the colours. The one I've used is called alizarin crimson, which is this one here, which is a dark red, and we often use that colour for white skin colour or Caucasian skin colour. You just really water it down, and it gives you a nice subtle pinky tone. And sometimes you might add a little bit of yellow into it just to make it more fleshy. If you want to darken it up, you just add a little bit more like that. Okay, so how are we doing? Oh, 2 minutes left. Gosh, right. So I knew this would go quickly. Please don't panic if you're not keeping up. Just go at your own pace. You might get used to it over time, and you will speed up a little bit as the days go on. So don't rush. You can always catch up with this another time. So I've just added a little bit of grey, and the grey is, well, in my set, it's a Payne's grey. You can use black, but just to give that saucer a little bit of shadow. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add, now by the time we get back, we've done this section, that should be drying off, and this should be virtually dry. However, if you're working in a cold studio like I am, it might not be dry. If you're in a house, it might be dry, so you can carry on. But if you're working in a cold studio and it hasn't quite dried off, what I tend to do is I use a hairdryer to dry things off. Okay, but I'm not going to do that today because I don't want to make any noise, so you can hear what I'm saying. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some little spikes on the canvas, on the cactus, should I say? And I'm going to use this green here called Viridian. Okay, and it's a darker green than the sap green. And I'm just going to take it and I'm going to use a small brush. I'm going to use one of my 00 brushes, this one. Okay, and I'm going to use it quite thickly on the brush, a bit thicker than when I painted the sap green. Can you see how thick that is? Yeah, all right. And I'm going to use that to make my spikes. And the cacti that I used in my little mini advert a few days ago is extremely spiky. So you can put as many or as few spikes on this cactus, I keep saying canvas, as you like. Just get the paint flowing, but not too thick, not too thin. All right. So, and then just go ahead and put some of these spikes on. I'm just going to the outside of this cacti for the moment until the sap green dries off. Okay. And then once I've done this bit, I should be able to put some spikes on the inside of the cacti. I can keep my hand steady. You can see why you would need a detail brush for this, because you want those spikes to be quite thin. Although, you know, some cacti have real brutal spikes on them, as I found out once when I was on holiday. and I walked into one, and I've still got a scar on my arm. So I've actually been marked by a cacti. So keep going until you've got as many spikes on your cacti as you need. And then you can start going on to the inside. Now, you don't have to put any on the inside of the cacti, but you will get a more sort of realistic cacti if you do this. Okay. I hope you've all had a wonderful Christmas. And even if you've been alone or you haven't seen family, I hope you've had as good a Christmas as you've been able to have, and that the new year will treat us all a bit better. So there we have our little spiky cacti. Now, the only thing that I would do is just take a little bit of the black. You can add a bit of green into it, and I would just put a little darkness inside that pot just to fill that in. Okay, so if you want to darken things up, then go ahead. You might find that because watercolor dries lighter than it looks when you first put it on. So if you want to add details and you want to do that afterwards, then go ahead. So you can put like zigzags on here, like that. I know that we've probably gone over time, but for this first session, we just needed to get used to things. Okay, you go and add as much or as little detail to that little cacti as you please. I'm just going to hold up my camera a little bit closer to my cacti so you can see the detail a bit better. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully next week I will have a webcam so I can zoom in a little bit closer. I hope you enjoyed that. I know that we've gone over a bit. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was okay. Thanks for coming, and see you tomorrow, and have a lovely New Year's Day, and I hope you enjoy yourself, especially in this beautiful weather. So Happy New Year, blwyddyn newydd dda, all the way from Wales. Bye for today. See you tomorrow.